were discussing the Mental Health Week when it was marked all over. The week seeks to raise awareness and mobilize support for mentally ill persons globally. Now, here in Ghana, we are saying that 650,000 people are said to be suffering from severe mental disorder, and this is quite serious. We've been joined in the studios by Mr. Humphrey Kofi. He's the Executive Director of the Mental Health Society of Ghana. He's going to help us look into the Mental Health Week and whether it holds sway for Ghana, whether it is even important for us to mark well as a people. Welcome, and thanks for joining us tonight on News Hotel.
Thank you very much.
Now, there is no LI or legislative instrument for
correct.
mental health in Ghana.
That's correct.
How is it affecting mental health delivery?
Yeah, to a large extent, indeed, it is affecting mental health service delivery in Ghana, because you know that the legislative instrument, or the regulation as it were, is supposed to give administrative directive to the parent law, which is the Act 846. Basically, what it's supposed to do is that it's supposed to explain some details of the parent law. For instance, how are we supposed to raise funds within the establishment of the mental health fund? What is the levy that we have to put on either goods and services to be able to marshal some funds for the mental health fund as it has already been inaugurated? So these are all processes telling us how things are supposed to be done, even within the parent law. It also has to be mentioned that it's not everything within the parent law that requires the regulation. Certain specific things need the regulation to explain. If you said this and that has to happen, how does it happen? What is the extent to which it should go? What is the limit? So that is what the LI is supposed to do.
Currently, we're having a big challenge when it comes to funding.
Yes.
Especially when you look at the two major facilities, the Accra Psychiatric Hospital in Accra, and of course the Pantan.
And also in Ankafo.
Ankafo
yes,
as well.
The third one, yes.
How do we address issues with funding whilst we await the passage of the LI?
Certainly, as the mental health law was passed, had it not been for DFID that had put some funding, for the Mental Health Authority to run the show, we would have passed the law and nothing would have happened, because currently government hasn't committed any money into the fund. Many of the psychiatric hospitals are generating funds from within. If you go to Pantan, for instance, they have the cold room, or of course where the people keep their cups when they need it. So that is an internally generated fund. They also levy people who come to seek services. They have an OPD that renders services beyond mental health. So other conditions are also looked at. So these are all internally generated funds. But is it the same for Accra Psychiatric Hospital? It's not, because they don't have a cold room where they can also generate funds from such situations. But I think Ankafo also has. In all these things, you ask yourself, what is the level of support that government is bringing to bear? What is it that government, even the medications that we're supposed to be provided for by government, it's not coming. Many people are relapsing at the moment because they are supposed to be on the medicine, and the medicine are not available. If you look at the current conditions in Ghana, where we are even going into elections, there are many people who are likely to suffer from mental health condition. At the moment, we are saying that 1 out of every 5 people is suffering from mental health condition. 1 out of 4 will suffer any such mental health condition in future. So you can realize that even with the election, the current situation where some nominees, people who have thought that they could stand for presidential elections, parliamentary elections, have been taken out of the ballot.
Have been disqualified.
Disqualified. It's already setting the tone for mental health conditions. People are going to be depressed because they have sunk money. They're going to think about it. How is this going to have the bearing on the
On that note,
general
do you think
mental
we've
health?
paid serious attention to mental health in the country?
At all. And I was thinking that ever since this gentleman made an attempt to assassinate our president, which is a typical mental health condition, because he was diagnosed afterwards, and we all got to know that he was suffering from some mental health condition. That should have been where the government should have taken up issues about mental health and taken it seriously, because now it's going beyond the normal Ghanaian, going to the extent of even trying to get closer to our president, in all these situations, the whole thing is because of the condition that the gentleman is going through. That is why he thought he was in a lucid state. He thought he could do things for himself. He was thinking about so many things, and he thought that he should be the president. If it's not some condition that he was suffering from, he wouldn't have thought that he was supposed to have been elected the president of Ghana after the late President Mills passed on.
We are waiting the passage of the airline.
Certainly.
Now, without the airline, there are a lot of pressure. There's much pressure on the money that the country makes and how they allocate monies to the various sectors of the economy. That is making sure that there isn't enough money being allocated to mental health. How do you, what is your proposal, I must say?
Yes, of course, there is some funding from donor agencies, for instance, like I mentioned, DFID.
That is for the donor agencies. I'm talking about government.
Oh,
How
okay.
do you want government to go about this?
Certainly, we have budgetary allocation for the Ministry of Health. Within the same
You want that increased?
Exactly, certainly. If we are serious people, that chunk of money that comes to Ministry of Health and that comes certainly to the Mental Health Authority or to mental health should by now increase. It has moved from, I think, 1% in the past to some few percentage, but it's still not enough. It's woefully inadequate. If you look at the people, and indeed, those who are suffering from mental health conditions are not the vagrants that we see on the streets. There are people in our offices who are suffering from depression, suffering from psychosis. They are on their medication. Either their colleagues are not aware that they are on medication, but you can see that at a point in time, they go through lucid and illucid stages. It's only their colleagues in the office who may or may not even identify such cases. And in some instances, to people who are suffering from the condition, they don't know. They certainly do not know that they are suffering from a certain mental health condition, but they know that there's something wrong with them.
Is this serious?
And very serious. And like the chief executive of the Mental Health Authority said some time ago, if he's asked to look for all people that are suffering from mental health conditions, he would have started from the offices. Certainly, he would have started from the offices, because it's not the vagrants that lie under the bridges that we see, who are stripped naked, who are not wearing anything. They are vagrants, yes, but there are more people driving. There are more people in offices who are suffering from mental health conditions that they are either aware or they are not.
Very well. Let's move our attention or shift our attention to the theme for this year's celebration. Now, they are focusing on psychological first aid.
Certainly.
What is that? Yeah,
dignity in mental health, psychological and mental health for all, first aid for all. Basically, what the theme is seeking to do is that some level of psychological support should be given to people with mental disorders. What are some of the basic things that we can provide for people who are suffering from such conditions? We don't normally necessarily need a psychologist at all times, because how many psychologists do we have in Ghana? And if you want to map up the number of, our population to the number of psychologists, you ask yourself how many people can see one psychologist in a day. But what are some of the basic things that we can provide? What are the social supports? For instance, the churches, the counseling departments, in the schools, in the mosque. What are the levels of social support that they can provide, to the extent that at least those who are suffering from some mental health conditions could at least get some support?
Okay. Very well. We're grateful that you could join us in the studios. Humphrey Kofi is Executive Director of Mental Health Society of Ghana. We're grateful.
Thank you very much.